Here's something I tell almost every man who walks into my clinic with prostate concerns. The prostate does not deteriorate on its own schedule regardless of what you do. It responds to how you live. And the men who come back for a follow-up appointment with genuinely better symptoms are almost always the ones who made a few specific changes. Nothing dramatic, nothing expensive, just 5 daily habits that their prostate responds to directly. Today I want to share those 5 habits with you. Not as a list of things you should probably do, but with the actual clinical explanation of what each one does inside the prostate and why it works. Because in my experience, when men understand the mechanism, when they understand why something matters rather than just being told it does, they actually do it. These habits can reduce the risk of BPH getting worse, reduce urinary symptoms that are already present, and lower long-term prostate cancer risk. The research supporting each one is published and credible, and none of them require a prescription. My name is Dr. Elizabeth Kavaler. I am a board-certified urologist and urogynecologist, and I have been in clinical practice for over 20 years. The prostate sits directly in my area of expertise. I evaluate, treat, and monitor prostate conditions every week, and I talk about these habits with patients in every prostate health conversation I have. What I am sharing is not general wellness advice. It is what the clinical evidence actually supports and what I have seen make a difference in practice. The first habit is daily walking, and I want to explain why it specifically helps the prostate, because most men think of walking as a heart or weight thing, not a prostate thing. The prostate is surrounded by a dense network of blood vessels and is highly sensitive to local blood flow. When men are sedentary for extended periods, pelvic blood flow decreases, oxygen delivery to prostate tissue drops, and inflammatory mediators accumulate in the prostate stroma. This local inflammation is one of the primary drivers of BPH progression. Walking for 30 minutes a day reverses this by improving pelvic circulation directly. A Harvard cohort study of nearly 50,000 men found that higher levels of physical activity were associated with a significantly lower risk of BPH symptoms. And interestingly, the type of activity that showed the strongest association was walking, not vigorous exercise. There's a second mechanism. Visceral abdominal fat drives the conversion of testosterone to estrogen through aromatase activity. Estrogen promotes prostate stromal cell proliferation, which contributes to BPH. Walking reduces visceral fat, reduces aromatase activity, and shifts the testosterone to estrogen ratio in the direction that is healthier for the prostate. 30 minutes daily. That is it. Not a marathon, a walk. And based on the research, it is one of the most consistent single interventions for prostate health available to men over 60. The second habit sounds almost too simple. Do not hold your urine for extended periods. Let me tell you why this matters clinically. When you repeatedly ignore the urge to urinate and hold urine for extended periods, several things happen inside the urinary system that are all bad for the prostate. The bladder muscle, the detrusor, has to generate increasingly high pressures to maintain continence against a full bladder. Over time, chronically elevated intravesical pressure causes the detrusor to hypertrophy and become overactive, which is the primary driver of urgency symptoms. More importantly for the prostate, a chronically full bladder creates back pressure on the prostate urethra, reducing urinary flow rate, promoting bacterial stasis in prostatic ducts, and increasing the risk of prostatitis, inflammation of the prostate itself. Research has linked chronic prostatitis to accelerated BPH progression. The practical rule is to urinate when you feel a moderate urge, not at the first hint of sensation, and not waiting until the urge is urgent and uncomfortable. Within about 20 minutes of feeling a clear urge is a reasonable guideline. This keeps bladder pressure manageable, maintains healthy flow dynamics through the prostate urethra, and reduces the bacterial accumulation that drives prostatic inflammation. Habit 3 is the dietary one, and I want to be specific because the details matter here. Cooked tomatoes. Not raw tomatoes, not tomato juice, not supplements. Cooked tomatoes. Tomatoes are the richest dietary source of lycopene, a carotenoid antioxidant that accumulates preferentially in the prostate gland and has been studied extensively for both BPH and prostate cancer prevention. A review of multiple prospective studies found that men with the highest dietary lycopene intake had a 28% lower risk of prostate cancer compared to men with the lowest intake. Here's why cooking matters. Lycopene is bound in the cell walls of raw tomatoes in a trans-isomer form that the body absorbs poorly. Heat converts lycopene from the trans form to the cis form, which is significantly more bioavailable. Cooking tomatoes in a small amount of olive oil increases absorption further. Lycopene is a fat-soluble compound, and dietary fat dramatically improves its uptake from the gut into the bloodstream. Practically, cooked tomato sauce on pasta, roasted tomatoes on eggs, tomato-based soups or tomato-based curries, 3 or 4 times per week at a serving size of half a cup to 1 cup. This is achievable, inexpensive, and the lycopene evidence is among the strongest of any dietary compound for prostate health. Habit 4 is alcohol, and I want to explain the prostate-specific mechanism because most men know alcohol is not great for general health, but do not understand why it specifically affects the prostate. Alcohol is a direct irritant to the lower urinary tract. It increases urine production by inhibiting antidiuretic hormone, the hormone that concentrates urine overnight. This is why alcohol causes frequency and nocturia even in men without prostate issues. In men who already have BPH and a compromised urinary flow, this diuretic effect is significantly amplified. Beyond frequency, alcohol promotes systemic inflammation, and the prostate is particularly sensitive to inflammatory signaling. Elevated inflammatory markers are independently associated with BPH progression in published longitudinal studies. Alcohol also disrupts the testosterone to estrogen balance by increasing aromatase activity, particularly at higher intakes, which, as I mentioned earlier, promotes prostate stromal cell growth. Research suggests that the threshold where alcohol begins to meaningfully affect prostate symptoms is relatively low. Consistent consumption above approximately 3 drinks per week is associated with measurably worse lower urinary tract symptom scores in men with existing BPH. 3 or fewer drinks per week is not abstinence. It is a clinically meaningful threshold that preserves enjoyment while removing the majority of the prostate and urinary impact. The 5th habit is about body composition, and I want to frame it specifically rather than just saying lose weight, because the research is more specific than that. It is visceral abdominal fat, the fat that accumulates around the organs inside your abdomen, that has the most direct relationship with prostate health. Subcutaneous fat, the fat you can pinch under the skin, has a much weaker association. So the measurement that matters is your waist circumference, not your weight on a scale. Men with a waist circumference above 102 centimeters, about 40 inches, have significantly higher rates of BPH and more severe urinary symptoms than men with smaller waist measurements, independent of total body weight. The mechanism is the aromatase pathway I described earlier. Visceral fat converts testosterone to estrogen, and elevated estrogen drives prostate growth. Visceral fat also elevates insulin levels, and insulin itself has been shown to stimulate prostate cell proliferation and increase the sensitivity of prostate tissue to growth signals, including DHT. A 10% reduction in waist circumference, not body weight, waist circumference, has been shown in clinical research to produce measurable improvement in urinary flow rates and symptom scores in men with BPH. For a man with a 42-inch waist, that means losing approximately 4 inches, achievable with the combination of daily walking, reduced alcohol, and modest dietary improvements that I have already described. These 5 habits are not independent, they reinforce each other. Walking reduces visceral fat. Reducing visceral fat reduces aromatase activity. Reducing alcohol reduces inflammation and further supports the testosterone balance. Adding cooked tomatoes supports lycopene-mediated antioxidant protection in the prostate. And voiding appropriately maintains the mechanical health of the prostate urethra. I have been doing this for over 20 years, and the thing that never changes is this. The men who do the best are not the ones who find the right medication or the right supplement. They are the ones who made 3 or 4 consistent lifestyle changes and kept them going. The prostate is a living, responsive organ. It responds to blood flow, hormones, inflammation, and the way you treat your body every day. The 5 habits I described today address all of those pathways, and the research behind each one is solid enough that I tell these things to every man who comes into my clinic with prostate concerns. Start tonight. Do not hold your urine. Walk tomorrow. Add cooked tomatoes this week. These are small things, but small things done consistently make a clinical difference. I have seen it. I am Dr. Elizabeth Kavaler. I will see you in the next video.